The dragon pits of Valdres Station orbited a dying star, and within those reinforced walls, humanity had learned to do the impossible, train the galaxy's most dangerous predators. Mira Solin stood at the edge of the training arena, her small frame dwarfed by the massive containment barriers that rose 30 meters on all sides. She was barely 19 standard years old, fresh off a colony transport from Earth's outer territories, and she had no business being here. But the Interstellar Dragon Corps was desperate for recruits, and humans, strange, stubborn humans, had proven oddly effective at working with creatures that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Trainer Kale Drav watched from the observation deck, his weathered face creased with decades of scars earned in this very arena. He'd seen hundreds of recruits come through these doors. Most washed out within the first week. Some didn't survive their first encounter. The dragons of Valdres weren't pets or companions, they were living weapons, bred by the ancient Krethic Empire for planetary conquest before their civilization collapsed into dust. New recruit in Arena 7. His assistant's voice crackled through the comm. First contact protocol. Kale leaned forward, his smile confident and practiced. First contact was always the same. The recruit would enter, the young dragon would posture and roar, and then he'd step in to demonstrate proper dominance techniques. It was theater, mostly, designed to weed out the truly incompetent while teaching the basics of dragon psychology. The door hissed open, and Mira walked in. She didn't hesitate. Didn't check her equipment or glance back at the exit. She simply walked to the center of the arena and stopped, her hands loose at her sides, her breathing steady. Kale's smile widened. Confidence was good. Overconfidence usually ended badly, but this one had potential. Then the dragon emerged. It was a young war dragon, barely 3 years matured, its scales still carrying the iridescent sheen of youth. Crimson and gold patterns rippled across its serpentine body as it slithered from its holding pen, each of its 6 legs ending in claws that could punch through starship hulls. Its head, a nightmare fusion of reptilian and insectoid features, swiveled toward Mira, and its multiple eyes locked onto her with predatory focus. The dragon was 15 meters long and weighed close to 8 tons. It had killed 2 Krethic handlers before the Corps acquired it from a black market dealer. They'd kept it sedated for most of its time here, letting it out only under heavy supervision. This was supposed to be a controlled introduction. Kale's smile began to fade. The dragon moved forward, not with the slow, cautious approach of a creature sizing up potential prey, but with purpose. Its movement was fluid, almost eager. It crossed the arena in seconds, closing the distance to Mira with frightening speed. "Abort!" Kale barked into the comm. "Get her out of there!" But Mira didn't move. She stood perfectly still as the dragon approached, its massive head now level with her chest, its breathing creating small clouds of superheated vapor that made the air shimmer around her. Kyle was already moving, his hand slamming the emergency override that would flood the arena with neural suppressant gas. His finger hovered over the activation button. Then the dragon sat down, not the aggressive crouch of a predator preparing to strike. Not the territorial stance of a dominant creature asserting control. The dragon actually sat like a massive, scaled dog, its tail curling around its body, its multiple eyes fixed on Mira with something that looked disturbingly like contentment. Kale's finger froze over the button. His smile was completely gone now, replaced by an expression of pure disbelief. In 37 years of training dragons, he had never seen anything like this. Mira reached up slowly, her movements deliberate but unafraid, and placed her hand on the dragon's snout. The creature's eyes half closed and a deep rumbling sound emerged from its chest. Not a growl, but something closer to a purr, if such a thing were possible from a war dragon. "What is she doing?" Kyle's assistant whispered beside him. "I don't know," Kyle admitted, his voice barely audible. The other trainers had gathered now, drawn by the commotion. They crowded the observation window, staring in silence at the impossible scene below. Mira began to speak. The microphones couldn't pick up her words clearly, but Kyle could see her lips moving, could see the gentle way she stroked the dragon's scaled head. The creature leaned into her touch, its massive bulk somehow seeming smaller, less threatening. "She's not using any of the protocols," someone said behind Kale. "She's not using any dominance techniques. She's just talking to it." Kyle felt something shift in his understanding. For decades, the Interstellar Dragon Corps had operated on one fundamental principle. Dragons were weapons to be controlled through strength, dominance, and carefully calculated behavioral conditioning. It was the only way. Every other approach had been tried and had failed, often catastrophically. But humans were different. Humans had walked onto the galactic stage barely 2 centuries ago, a species so young that most civilizations dismissed them as primitives. Yet humans had a peculiar gift that older, wiser races had long since abandoned. They still believed in friendship. Mira sat down cross-legged in the arena, and the dragon lowered its massive head into her lap. She continued talking, continued that gentle stroking motion, and the most dangerous predator in known space looked for all the galaxy to see, like a creature at peace. Kale's hand slowly withdrew from the emergency override. He stood at the observation window, watching his entire understanding of dragon training crumble and reform into something new. The other trainers began talking excitedly, theorizing and analyzing, but Kale remained silent, his eyes fixed on the young human girl and her dragon. Perhaps, he thought, humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability or their stubborn refusal to quit. Perhaps it was simply this: their infinite, foolish capacity to see a monster and choose to see a friend instead. And perhaps, in a universe of ancient empires and forgotten wars, that was the most dangerous weapon of all.